$1 million might only pay you $1,900 a month. Not in a crash, not worst case. The 4% rule says that million pays $40,000 a year. Rerun it across 38 countries of market history instead of mostly this one, and the estimate drops to 23,000. Same million. Different assumptions. $17,000 less. And the difference comes down to one fragile assumption hidden inside the number almost everyone is chasing. For decades, retirement advice has been simple. Save $1 million. Withdraw 4% a year, that's $40,000. Your money should last about 30 years. Financial planners call it the 4% rule. The kind of rule you repeat at a dinner party without ever checking where it came from. And where it came from is one country's history. Ours, which happens to be one of the strongest surviving markets in the historical record. That's not a flex. That's a sampling problem. Last year, 4 researchers published a study in the Journal of Pension Economics and Finance. They modeled retirement withdrawals using market history from 38 developed countries instead of leaning on ours. Their estimate for a 65-year-old couple accepting a 5% chance of running out was 2.31% a year. On $1 million, $23,100. Morningstar's current research lands closer to 3.9% on a 30-year retirement with a 90% success target. Bill Bengen, the man who wrote the original rule, has argued the real number is higher than 4. They can all be internally right and still hand you radically different answers. And that is the actual finding here. Not that 4% is wrong, that there was never a single correct number, and the one you inherited came from one unusually successful market, treated as though its history were universal. Here's what makes this more than an academic argument. Both of those rules already assume your spending rises with inflation. That part is built in. So the danger was never that prices go up. You've known that your whole life. The danger is when the bad years show up. Retire into a strong decade, and 4% may work comfortably. Retire into a weak one, and your withdrawals can force you to sell depressed assets. Those shares aren't there when the recovery arrives. The market may come back. Your portfolio doesn't come back with everything it started with. That's sequence of returns risk. It's why 2 people with identical portfolios, identical spending, and identical average returns can end up in completely different places. In the global data, conventional withdrawal rates ran the portfolio to 0 far more often than U.S. history alone would predict, with one spouse still alive to need the money. Not because anyone overspent, because the order the returns arrive in is the variable rules of thumb quietly ignore. And the one you don't control. And here's the part no spreadsheet shows you. Nobody feels it happening. You don't wake up one morning and notice your money lost the race. You quietly stop replacing things, then stop traveling, then get good at explaining why that's fine. So what's the actual number? Say you need $60,000 a year out of your portfolio. At 2.31%, that's $2.6 million. At 4%, $1.5 million. Same $60,000 spending target. More than $1 million of difference created by the withdrawal assumptions your plan has to survive. Now, some of you are already building your exception. Social Security covers part of the gap. Maybe the house is paid off. Maybe $60,000 goes further where you live. All fair. And none of it means you're being naive. It's what anyone does when a number gets pointed at them. But those exceptions don't rescue the universal $1 million target. They prove there was never a universal target to begin with. Healthcare, housing, taxes, and how long you live do not move in lockstep with one national inflation figure. Which is why your retirement number has to be calculated, not inherited. So what do you do with it? First, find your gap. Take the annual income you'd actually need. Subtract what's genuinely dependable. Social Security, a pension, any annuitized income. What's left is the part your portfolio has to carry, and that's the only number that matters. Almost nobody calculates it. Second, test that gap at more than one rate. For a conservative stress test, use 2.5%. For the traditional baseline, use 4. Your plan should survive a range, not depend on one number being right. Third, decide now what you would cut, not if a bad stretch shows up. When pausing an inflation raise for 2 or 3 years, trimming discretionary spending early, that flexibility can materially improve the odds the portfolio survives. Because the people whose money lasts aren't necessarily the ones who guess the perfect number. They're the ones who had a plan for being wrong. $1 million pays about $23,000 a year under that conservative global estimate. About $40,000 under the traditional rule. The honest answer is that nobody can hand you your number, because there was never one number that worked for everyone. If seeing the real math before the big decisions is useful, subscribe. And if your plan is counting on your house to close the gap, that number can work against you in ways most people don't find out until it's too late. That's next.